was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was in the principal's office, and I was thinking, maybe it's not such a bad old job after all, when there was a knock on the door, and the father of a first-year boy asked to see me. So he came in and he told me that his son was being bullied. And I must say I was very amazed by this, because, 3 weeks into school, how come bullying is manifesting itself so early? So I said, are you sure? He said, yes. He put his hand in his pocket and he took out an envelope with photographs of his son taken at the kitchen table at home. He had his shirt off and he was covered in bruises all over his chest and his arms. And I must say I was astounded. I said, are you sure this happened at the school? He said, yes, because I know who did it. He said it was a fellow student of my son's who was in the same primary school as him. So I said, well, look, I'm going to give this my utmost priority, and I'll ring you this evening and have my guarantee this is not going to continue. So off he went. So I sent for the boy he named as the perpetrator of this. And as I was waiting for him to come to the office, I was thinking to myself, looking back on it now, I was very angry, because I felt kind of personally responsible to those parents who had handed over their child's welfare and security to me, and I had, the principal of the school, I had let him down, obviously. So I was going to make sure that this didn't happen again. So I was weighing up in my mind whether I would suspend him for 3 days, and then I thought, no, I'll suspend him for a week, because that will send a signal to everybody in the school. Don't come into the school and bully people. So as I was waiting for him to arrive, something came into my mind. What about this restorative business? And we had little cards printed for the staff with the restorative questions on them. And I looked through the desk and I found my card with the questions. So I thought, well, maybe I should try these. So the boy arrived in, and I welcomed him and asked him how is he getting on. And I said, well, have you any idea why I sent for you? He said, yes. I said, why? Because I've been bullying the other boy. Okay. So I looked down at my questions and I said, what happened? And he began to tell me. What were you thinking at the time? He told me that. Who has been harmed by this? And he investigated the impact on the boy himself and his parents and his brothers and sisters and the other first years and the school personnel, etc., etc. But a most amazing story emerged, because it appeared that when he was in the primary school some months earlier, he had been bullied himself by another student, and he had made up his mind when he came to the secondary school that he was going to take on the persona of the bully. So, certainly not justified behaviour, but, there was a certain logic to it. And then we came down to the end, what do you need to do now to put things right? So immediately he said, I'm sorry for doing this, and it was a very genuine apology. And I said, well, I'm going to leave you with that to think about it, so I'll invite you to sit outside my office then. And then I sent for the boy who had been bullied. When he came in, I asked him the questions. And one of the questions for a person who has been harmed by somebody else is, what has been the hardest thing? And the hardest thing for him was, why is he bullying me? When a couple of months ago in the primary school, we were never good friends, but he never laid a finger on me. Now every day I come in here and he's, down the corridor, he's punching me, and he says, is there something wrong with me? Suddenly I realized I have the answer to your question, and it's sitting outside the door. So I said to him, would you be willing to, if I invited in X outside the door and we went through the questions again? He said, yes. So I did. And as we went through the questions, I began to see that the boy who had been bullied now began to realize there was nothing wrong with him, that there was a reason, twisted and all though it was. But it delivered him out of that sense of, well, I must be doing something wrong if he's turning on me. So there was a spontaneous apology given and accepted. And then I put the question again to the person who had done the harming. I said, what could you do now to restore, harmony, if you like, here to this relationship? There was a very long pause. And I almost was going to say, well, think about that and come back tomorrow or whatever. When he turned to the boy beside him and directly addressing him, he said, I'd like to invite you to have lunch with me tomorrow in the canteen. He said, I'll buy you the lunch and that'll show the others that I'm not bullying you anymore. So I said, and how do you feel about that? He said, yeah, that's great. Okay. I said, okay, boys, away you go. And just report back to me now in a few days' time and tell me how things are going. And I will ring both your parents and tell them what has happened. And as they were heading out the door and down the corridor together, I realized that I had just been taught a very profound lesson in conflict resolution by two 12-year-old boys. Just by staying out of the conflict and facilitating them with the proper questions and prompts and supports. So that was a eureka moment for me in my whole work as a restorative practitioner or a mediator, or call it what you like, as a human being.